So it is my absolute pleasure to be welcoming to stage Dr. Angel Manabat and to do his introduction. Dr. Angel is a distinguished figure in the swine industry with over 3 decades of experience. Let's explore his remarkable journey. Dr. Manabat earned his Doctor of Veterinary Medicine degree from the University of the Philippines in 1988. Since then, he has been deeply involved in the swine industry, leaving an indelible mark on the field. His career began as a training specialist at the International Training Center on pig husbandry. Later, he joined Monterey Food Corp, where he held a pivotal role in their breeding operations management. Dr. Manabat's expertise extended beyond national borders. He served as the technical and marketing manager at Novartis Animal Health Philippines, contributing significantly to the industry's growth. In 2007, he joined PIC as the Technical Services Manager for the Philippines. His focus was on developing and training professionals while providing essential technical support to farms. From 2012 to 2017, he worked in China as the Regional Technical and Health Assurance Department for PIC Asia. Dr. Manabat's accolades speak volumes about his contributions. He received the Outstanding Veterinary Practitioner in Swine Practice Award from the Veterinary Practitioners Association of the Philippines. Additionally, the Philippine Veterinary Medical Association recognized him as an outstanding farm veterinarian. Currently, Dr. Angel Manabat serves as the president of the Philippine College of Swine Practitioners, cementing his legacy as a respected leader in the swine industry. It is my absolute pleasure to be welcoming him to stage and listening to his presentation on optimizing sow performance potential. Dr. Angel, the stage is yours.
Thank you for the very nice introduction, and thank you for PIC and Alzu for inviting me here. It's my first time in South Africa, and I'm enjoying every hour I've been here. I've been here for 4 days. And I think one thing that you can take away from my introduction is I'm old. So I've been with the industry for 35 years. And one thing that I've actually learned every day, every time I go to lectures in different countries or different parts of the Philippines, is I'm sure I'm going to learn something new. And just by looking at the awardees here, I'm sure that there are a lot of good information and a lot of good learnings that I could bring home to the Philippines and Asia. Okay? I think it would be better here. So what I'm trying to talk about is optimizing sow performance potentials. We have a problem now in Asia that I don't know if you share the same problem, that there is also, there's really a big need to push that we produce more from less. Okay? It means produce more pork from less investments, produce more pork from less fatteners, produce more piglets from less sows, because we do have a big problem. For example, we expect that in the next, up to 2050, the Asian population will increase by 0.6 billion people. Can you imagine 0.6 billion people? And most of these Asians love their pork. Okay? Just to give you an idea, the people from Hong Kong actually consumes about 55 kilos of pork per year. 55, okay? The people from South Korea consumes about 38 kilos of pork per year. Same with Vietnam, they consume about 38 kilos of pork per year as well. So we mean there's going to be a lot of people there and a lot of pork that's going to be needed. That's why we have to produce more pork in the future. However, like in the Philippines, most of our inputs like feed, like wheat, feed ingredients like corn, we import it. And actually the cost to produce there is actually getting very high. So we have to make sure that if we have to import those shiploads of wheat, that we have to make sure we feed it to the right animals to produce the best number of pork or animals that we can. Okay? And the third one is there are certain uncertain investors in farming. I'm very glad I was at the back looking at all the South African farmers. You're younger, from my view, a lot of you are younger than what I see in other countries, especially in the Philippines, where in the younger generation doesn't like to go into pig farming anymore. It's very hard to get people to work with pigs. And I'm glad that Alzu has a good succession plan, because that it just shows how healthy that operation would be. But many operations in Asia were having a hard time getting people to work in farms. And those who have actually had made a lot of money working in pig farms, have decided to cash in and just say, okay, if my children is not interested in this, might as well cash in and enjoy my vacation somewhere. So we're losing a lot of the farms in the Philippines and in Asia. There's also very big competition for land use. Again, if we're looking at 0.6 billion people increase, then that's going to be needing a lot of homes, a lot of land. And I can remember during the first 3 decades, as mentioned, we started farms in very remote areas in the Philippines. We flattened the land, we made all the electrical poles, we made the roads, we cemented it. We're the only ones there. Then year by year, you get houses being built near the farms. Then when it comes, all the houses that are around, they have a lot more votes than one pig farmer. Then they say, we don't like the pig farm there anymore. So we have to go out. So there's also this big competition for land use. Okay, there is also pressure to reduce waste, as in everywhere. So we have to make sure that if we have a lot of sows, okay, we have to manage the waste as well. And the biggest problem we're having right now is there are a lot of disease cases in the Philippines and in Asia. I think we've heard in 2019, ASF jumped into Asia, and we actually lost a lot of our population. Just for reference, in the Philippines, we had 1.6 million sows before ASF. Now we're down to 0.8. We lost half. Okay, and we had to feed the Filipinos our pork with half the sow population. And we haven't had a good experience on rebuilding. Our sow level has been at that level for almost 3 years because we keep getting rebreaks. There's very hard-headed farmers there who doesn't know how to do biosecurity. But that's the situation right now. And even in China, where they're having a lot of population being rebuilt, they're still getting rebreaks on ASF. So what we really need is to have a very robust animal first and a robust breeding program to make sure that we can actually produce more from less sows, when we are used to when we started in the business. And this actually occurs in 4 pillars. Okay, the first pillar would be genetics, which I'm glad that I'm not going to talk about genetics. Being in operations for a long time, not to offend Saskia, usually when the geneticists come to our farm, I usually hate those meetings. Because I remember in 1990, when we had pig swine per sow per year of 14, 15, we thought we were doing very well. And then the geneticists come and say, you can do better, you can do 16. Okay, the next few years we do 16. Then they come back again, you can do 18. It never stops. So I'm not an owner, I'm reporting to the owner. So I always get that, you're not doing very good job, Angel. So every time they come to the meeting, they say, oh, you can do 18. I did 18. Then they say 20, then it's 10, 25, 26. It does not stop. so usually when somebody from genetics, the team actually goes there, I just say, okay, what's the target now? However, if you look at the performances that we had from the 1990s, and I think you've seen that as well in South Africa, we can actually push production from the genetics we have at the moment. Like in the Philippines, we're the lowest, we're a very hot area. We are getting 29 pig swine per sow per year. In China, they're getting almost 32. Korea, we're getting 31. Japan, 32. And Vietnam, 31. And the take home I have is we have to do better because the South African farms are doing a lot better than we are. And if you look at the presentation of Saskia later, there's still a lot of things we can do better. Okay? So now we really focus on making sure that we know the genetics are there. It's good. It will perform. Okay. Now we will look at how do we get the performance out. Okay. So first we have to make sure that we develop our breeding herd properly. Okay. So as I mentioned, today's breeding herd are different, totally different. And I have to make sure that I bring to you the latest presentation, especially for PIC. Sometimes my presentations from last year is outdated already because the development on the genetics is very fast. So sometimes I do a presentation said, Angel, I remember 2 years ago you said the total opposite. And that's the reality. The breeding female has changed. Aside from the reproductive traits that we're developing, we're now seeing genetics that are fast, efficient, clean. So we have to make sure we manage it properly. Retention rate, okay, is an indicator we can always measure, but we have to have good programs to make sure that these are improved. And that's why we have to change the mindset that when we have our gilts, or when we have gilts being ready, that we're not getting them ready just for the first parity, but we want to actually get them ready to be able to produce until the third parity. Okay. And when you look at that, it takes a long time. It takes about 15 months. If you want to do a program right now, you have to start from birth, selection, mating, management of first farrowing, management of second farrowing, then management of third farrowing to make sure that we actually have a very consistent performance of our breeders. Okay? It's not going to work if you have a meeting on January. This is what we're going to do. By the end of the year, we should have this. In the middle year, we have a mid-year review. This is what we're going to do. This is actually a long-term program, and we have to make sure we manage every section of this. And just to put it in bite-sized pieces, we're going to discuss it in first time. It's full value gilts, producing full value gilts, which is basically from birth to mating. Okay? The next section we're going to discuss is how to reinforce gilt selection for lifetime productivity, which is from mating until they're weaned. Okay? And the third one would be how to manage our sows. This is to reinforce induction and make sure that we actually manage our gilts, that they come into heat as early as we can, or catch it as early as we can. And the last part would that be is improve the quality of gilt at farrowing and P1 at weaning. For those who have been in the industry also longer, I think it's very common to hear the P2 dip. Okay? It's always there. Oh, I have a P2 dip. When you have a very good performance, then the second parity goes down, and everybody blames the people not taking care of the sows, the feed, the genetics. But it happens if you don't have a good preparation for your gilts. So we go by it by one. So this one, that's why I was carrying it. Basically, what we want to make sure that every female that's born, okay, from your GPs, gets the best chance to become a good gilt. And that basically goes back to basic management. Okay? It's actually basic, but you have to also make some changes in terms of nutrition, in terms of when you wean it, in terms of how you wean it, how you take care of it. And it's a good thing that the technical services team here has made materials that can help you in terms of nutrition, okay, water, space, environment, okay, everything that's vital for the gilt to actually reach its potential. So you have this. I think everybody has it in the loot bag. Very, very nice. Okay. Then, of course, what we have to do is make sure that we get them into heat as early as we can, or at least capture it. And that's why the first thing here, I'm sorry it's blurry, is basically teach your people how to check for heat. Sometimes we assume that they know. Okay. Maybe we also go there, try to check for heat. And just one quick story, when I was asked in one of our bigger farms where we delivered 1,000 gilts, they asked, Angel, you have to go to the farm because your gilts are not coming to heat. And I said, okay, so that's bad news. So I went there, I went to the gilt pool, and I was looking around, and I said, okay, that one is in heat. Ah, okay, right, you're right. Then I walk around again and check, hey, oh, that one is in heat. Oh, right, we missed that one. You go around, okay, that one is in heat. Then you find out, okay, there's a lot of gilts that are in heat that they haven't caught. So sometimes you have to go to your farm and basically really walk the pens and ask questions. And I said, have your team been trained for heat detection? Do they know how to heat? Yeah, of course, we have training. They do very well. They've been in our farm for years. I said, okay, do you use a teaser bore? Yes, we use a teaser bore. We have good teaser bores. We've got, I don't know if you use speed trains. Mations. We have Mations in the Philippines that are very good teaser bores. We use that, and it's doing very well. Okay, I couldn't still connect. What's happening? I said, how do you use your teaser bores? Okay, we feed in the morning. What we do is when we go for coffee, we let go of our teaser bores, let them go to the gills while we're having our coffee so that they're properly stimulated. Then we come back and look for those gills that are in heat. And for those who have been in the industry for a long time, you know that's not a good way to detect for heat. Because they'll start standing while you're having coffee, and when you come there and look for those, you won't find it. And this is very basic, but you'll be surprised when you go around many farms that this happens. So you have to make sure that you don't assume that your people are doing the right thing, especially in Asia, wherein the turnover of our people is very high. So we do a lot of training, but you really have to make sure that it's being done on the ground. Okay. People, bore power, as I said, and lighting. You might be needing more to adjust the lighting, unlike in the Philippines and in Asia, wherein our light per day is actually almost consistent, maybe 1 hour difference between our winter. Our winter is about 37 degrees centigrade. Our summer is about 42. So that's our summer and winter. So the light does not really change. But I guess in your cases, you have to make sure that when the light is not enough, you have to provide lighting. So it's here. And most of this, okay, the good thing with what we have is PIC would make sure that we have a lot of resources for you to actually access. I've seen your presentations here about what we've done on online training, videos, materials, because we are really focused on making sure that your farm actually performs. So we have full value guild tools. We have technical information. We even have barn evaluation tools. Okay, I know that there are a lot of allied people from allied industries in the Philippines. We actually like to work with our partners, the one who builds the farms, you know, the big Dutchman, the big herdsman, the Scove, who builds our feeders. We like to work with them because we have to come up with a combined effort on how to make sure the farm works. Okay. Next is basically guild selection practices. The first one is you have to make sure that we make the decisions early. Okay. When you see a guild that's not doing very well, or would not really be selected as a prime guild, you have to make decisions early. Take them out, call them, or at least if you feel that it has a chance, maybe it's just being bullied in the feeders, then make sure you select them, put them in a separate pen, provide feed, and see if it can still catch up. If it doesn't, then make sure we make use of that space, of that time for the gills that they're actually going to use. Okay? Check for anything that has major defects, your hernias or lameness, then take them out. Again, that would give more time for the people to really manage your gills. Then if there's any really animals that are really not thriving very well, then make sure that they're taken out properly. Then after selection, you've said, okay, these are the gills. These are the gills I think that would make it. Make sure you also select them to be the prime gills you want. Okay, check for the vulva. Now, there are some cases where the vulva is very small, so you have to check them out or select them out. Teats, they have enough teats. Legs, hooves, movement, making sure that you can select those gills that are going to last you until P3. Then, basically, for guild selection practices, the goal is basically make sure that we actually select the right guilds. And for resources, we're saying that we have this PIC Pro Select, which you can access. I think the technical services team can help you access this one. This is a training program or a certification program for our selection officers. It consists of a training, as mentioned, you do a lot of online training. We do videos. We have materials going that are available for you. Go for PIC Pro Select, okay? So that they can be able to classify, standardize their classification from those that are needing to be culled. Because the worst thing, again, is they're culling more than what is needed, or they're selecting those that are not going to perform. So you have to make sure that they are trained properly for that one. Okay, third. This one, I think it's, you've probably seen these slides before. It's guild eligibility at first meeting. And of course, I know that there are going to be some, okay, is it this the one that you presented to me 1 year ago, 2 years ago? Because we always try to see what would be the best animals to select. Okay, right now, the target for eligibility, first is age. What we want is at the age at first puberty, the one that actually comes into heat, is actually the one that comes into heat early. If your animals are coming to heat 196 days old, they saw that these are actually going to fall off, or the retention rate will be lower. Okay? So if you have an opportunity, for those, avoid those 196 days old gills that are just coming to heat. Again, I have to add, because we had questions for the last 2 days, again, we have to assume, or we have to ensure that they actually check for heat properly. Because sometimes we have a lot of things to do. We've been in farms, we've worked in farms, that you feel that your people might have missed it, then you have to make sure that if I'm doing my job very well, I can be very strict on this. Heat not served. Target is to have at least 2 heat not served before they're eligible for mating. So early age is important. Gilt bred at second estrus is important. It has not changed, and it has been proven to be in this target that are good. Okay. Next one is age at first mating. Okay. And I had a lot of discussion the last 2 days. Okay. The age at first mating, you're saying try to avoid those that are 226 days old. Because we feel that based on the study of Patterson in 2020, they also have very poor retention rates. Okay. For weight, okay, the target is, the sweet spot would be 145 to 160 kilos at time of weighing. Anything heavier, they say that the retention rate is lower, and they might have to feed it more. So at those trials that were done by Patterson, they still feel at the moment 145 to 160 would be your sweet spot for breeding. And again, as I mentioned, the last 2 days, genetics went ahead, lectured before me. We've shown that there are some improvements already in the genetics we have. And we've seen that they grow faster. And that's why we had to make sure we manage our gilt pool very well. Because if they grow faster, your average weight of your gilts at breeding would be higher as well. And this just for an example, if there's a 7.6% increase in average weight of your gilts at time of breeding, you will see that the number of heavy gilts are actually going to double. Okay? So if you don't if you don't work on your weights very well, you can actually have more gilts coming into heavy weights. So you have to make sure you try to look at weights earlier, because we have a faster growing gilt at this time. Okay? So again, gilt eligibility at mating, the target is induce it early, catch the heat the heat early, detect them early, then make sure that they're in the right age, the right weight at time of mating. And if you need resources for this one, we have current gilt development management recommendations available in our DAO. We also have a reproduction resource center, which we can actually discuss what's happening in your farm, what are the new developments on gilt management. Okay. Okay, the next topic would be the first gestation. Okay, this is going to be the most important one for me, based on what I've seen in our farms, this is where usually the big problem comes. You have prepared your gilts, they're farrowing, but then something wrong happens in the first farrowing. First, we have to make sure that they're fed properly. One thing that we advise people is don't categorize your gilts from fat or thin. Just feed them the same until they get to the farrowing crates. Second, make sure that they're fed properly. Third is check daily water intake, which are very basic. They're still saying that it's 2 liters per minute. In IPVS, I came from the IPVS last week, and they're saying that they might need more, 3 to 4, just for the flow. Just make sure that there's enough water for the gilts. The last one with daily sow care. Okay, this is where the big problem comes in, especially for gilts. When they come into the farrowing, they're crated. There's these little pigs around me. I just gave birth. Usually they don't drink, they don't eat. They're just trying to understand what's happening. So what we have to do is almost check first if they have fever. Make sure that we actually encourage them to eat and stand up and drink, just to ensure that they are actually eating very well. Okay. Just to give some targets. So the target body weight, as we're saying, is 160, 145 to 160. Avoid going there. Never feed gilts below the requirement. Then I'm missing the target. The target is the gilts in the first farrowing should be able to drink water within the first 6 hours that you put them there. Okay. Okay, for resources, for technical services, we have to make sure that we have access to all the materials we have from the technical services. We have the initiative developed from reproduction nutrition team. We have the new sow feeding program, which actually gets updated. That's another case with the nutrition team that they actually look whether the feeding levels are okay. And of course, again, the reproduction level. I think I'm getting sorry. I don't know if you have water yet. Okay. Thank you. I like the walking. Okay, pillar 3, principles and targets for sow care. Okay, this is going to be very important because we see that our breeding herd has to be managed properly, and those that are falling behind should be treated early as we can. So the 4 things that we have to remember first is, let's not work with numbers, because sometimes when you're managing farms, you're saying, okay, how many died today? There's 1 or 2 sows. Okay, that's not too many. Okay, or next month I have 4. Okay, that's just part of normal. But we have to make sure that we know what's causing those mortalities. Okay, let's not just work on records and see, okay, I know they're within acceptable limits, but what's causing the mortality? So we actually recommend that at least 30% of those that are dying or culled should get a good workup, whether it's through necropsy or through good evaluation of your veterinarians. So that's what we have to do. Next, taking the best breeding decisions. Okay, this one is also the discussion we had the last few days. Because the recommendation, if you're running a very good farm, is decisions to cull should be quick. Because they would eat. If they're not going to be bred, they'll eat, they'll take up space, they'll take up labor. So if you have a gilt, or a priority 1, or a priority 2, or a priority whatever, that in the farrowing you feel that, okay, this sow or this gilt or this P1 would not be a good breeder, might as well make a decision in the farrowing room. Okay, call them. Don't tell them. Don't send them to the breeding section. I work in the breeding section. Every time you send me a weaned sow, I'll try to breed the hell out of it. Okay, I'll try to get it because that's my KPI. That's my index. That's why I'm going to be rated if I'm doing good or not. Okay, but if you feel, or if everybody feels that this will not make it, might as well send it directly to culling. Okay, and the discussion there is we have to make sure that we have a standard basis for culling. And that's why you have to have a champion for culling and for making these decisions. Okay? So what we really need is to have good staff education. Again, we really are focusing on people. As I said, I hope you don't have as high turnover as we have in Asia. But this is actually one of our critical issues for the moment. We have almost everybody there, the genetic companies, the housing companies, the feed companies. But the one we're lacking is the consistent long-term employees that stays in the farm for at least 2 years. Sometimes they go there, they train in the farm and they move. They go to other countries or other projects that are not as smelly or anything. So we have to make sure that staff education is there. You have vets, okay, that are actually on hand to help you. I don't know what the conditions of the vets in South Africa are, but in Asia and even in the US, we're having a hard time encouraging vets to practice in pig farms. You know, everybody wants, all the young vets are going to small animal practice. There's more money there. There's better conditions. So we have to make sure that we try to encourage the vets to help us do the necropsies, make records. Then the target is, as I said, 30% of all deaths should have a good workup or should have a good necropsy. Okay. Breeding decisions, this is where the targets are. Okay. The critical question, as I said, to ask if it's after, when you wean it, do you think this can still perform for the next parity? Okay. Is it still good to breed it, to keep it? Okay. What are the culling decisions? Okay. They said that they must be taken in farrowing and never placed on a culled sow in the weaning area. Okay. So that they stay there and nobody decides. Okay. So somebody has to make a decision. And this is what we were discussing, that there should be somebody who's actually going to take accountability on selecting those animals to be culled. Okay? So the target is you don't want to have more than 4 culls or deaths for every 100 sows you breed. And from breeding to pregnancy until 28 days, then more than that means that there's something happening in your farm. Then you have to make sure that you make the right decisions in culling. And if you're not having good gilts, you have to manage your gilt pool to make sure that, okay, there's something wrong with how I'm getting my gilts. Making sure that we do not waste the gilts, but we also make sure that we have enough gilts to be able to breed. Okay? The target would be for culling is you have to have 1 voluntary when you say, okay, this one I'm going to cull. Well, 2 is so 1 non-voluntary and 2 voluntary, long wean, reproductive failures, lameness, poor body condition, mastitis, gilts that have not been coming into heat. These are the ones that you want to make sure that you get actions quickly. Because if you do this, then you only have about 50% going to the old age. Okay. Inventory management, as I said, the teaser boars are very important, but you don't need to have many because they will also be eating your feed. They'll also take care of, get some labor. So that the right number will be 1 teaser boar per 200 inventoried sows. Then non-late responders to HNS are called, but you want it about less than 2%. Again, you have to make sure it's being done properly before you make such a bold target. So you have to look at your people, are they doing it? If you're confident, then it should be less than 2% that are there that doesn't come into heat. Late weaners, 1% of sound inventory are being weaned late. And of course, when you're culling, making sure that you have to make sure that they're taken out of your farm very frequently, okay, or regularly. Because again, I've been to farms wherein I look at the growing building that's full of culls. Nobody wants to make any decision. They're feeding it. And I said, okay, you're losing money because you're feeding. I didn't want to mention it because I heard that you're targeting 40 Rand for live weight. In the Philippines, right now we're earning 27 Rand per kilo live weight, earning. So that's why anytime a sow or a gilt culled is not sold, then we lose that opportunity to make money, and it just eats there. Might as well sell them. Okay? Intervention and treatment, again, these are going to be very basic, okay? We know that even in a very good farm, there's going to be about 2 to 3% that needs management or needs treatment. So we have to make sure we prepare for that when you're putting your gilts into buildings, making sure you have enough space for those fallouts so that we can actually isolate them and make sure that they are treated properly, okay? Identification of sick animals should be done quickly, okay? And this is where discussions, again, I came from the IPVS, and they're talking about AI, artificial intelligence, where they're saying, okay, well, let's put cameras in your barns so that the computer can tell you what's happening inside your farm. They can tell you which is not eating, which one is not drinking. But, I'm old school. I would rather walk the barns, okay, and really see what's happening there. And that's the reason why we say that you have to really know your animals. I don't think there's going to be any major or a good AI that can replace people, that can look at your pigs, because the pig will tell you what's happening in the farm. Okay? So in farms that are using feeders that are dropping their feed once every day or once a few days, once every few hours, try to make sure you're there to see those who are not interested in feed. Okay, so you can see, okay, this one they've dropped already some feed and it's not standing up. Then that gives you an idea that you have to do something with it. Mark sows that do not eat. Okay. Check for medication if they are needed. In the Philippines right now with ASF, we're doing this very well. Because unfortunately, ASF is becoming a very different disease. Okay? You can have mortalities without no clinical signs. They just don't eat. And if we don't act properly, it will spread in our farm and we have to totally vacate or totally depopulate the farm. So for us, I think that's one thing that ASF taught us, is we really have to be ready to check, or we have to make sure that we capture any problems we might see as a possible issue on our sows. Okay? In farrowing, again, making sure that, again, this goes back to basic recommendations, making sure that in farrowing, our people know how to take care of our farrowing sows, they know how to sleeve, they know how much time is needed between piglets, making sure that every placenta is actually expelled before they say, okay, it's time to go and have coffee or go home. You have to make sure that they are monitoring all of this. Okay? So the target is make sure sows have, of course, have water. Okay? Train the gilts, the first priority animals, making sure they're trained to drink in the farrowing crates. Okay? When the staff is there, monitor sows that are actively farrowing every 20 minutes. Okay? Again, sleeving, I don't know if this is the same term as we have. Okay? Farrowing assistance, making sure that they know how to do it. I've had nightmares of people sleeving using soap. And because they thought it was a good idea using their laundry soap for making it run smoother, and then you get a lot of problems. Okay? Then get the temperature of sows after farrowing, at least within an hour after farrowing, to determine if they're actually having a fever. For resources, okay, we also have a lot of resources for this that you can check with your technical services. So our target is 100% of your P0s are verified as water drinkers. So make sure that they are drinking within 6 hours. They're put in the farrowing crates. 100% of farrowings should have a placenta expulsion record. Okay? And 100% of P1s are checked for temperature after farrowing, and less than 5% of those are actually kicked out or seen that they have to vacate or leave the farrowing crates. Again, this is just to highlight the value of people management or people training. This is just a chart that shows sow deaths per week, starting from 0 when you started training your people. You'll see that the longer that they are trained, or the more consistent they're trained, you can actually influence sow mortality, okay, or sow treatment. It means that when your people are actually They know what to look for. They know how to say, okay, they have a problem, and we have to do this. Then you can see that training actually improves the number of sow mortalities in your farm. Okay. The last pillar, I think this one is actually something I think maybe you should teach us in Asia, because I heard that the South African farmers are the first one to actually embrace the caliper. Who uses here the caliper for detecting body condition? Okay. So we'll see later, because I can remember when I was teaching body conditions in China. I was there for 5 years. I was doing the go behind, try to press. Sometimes you think, am I really doing what's proper? Because sometimes in the morning I feel this one is fat. Then I go for a break and go back and, okay, this one is not fat, it's okay. But I think what happens with the caliper, Dr. Nauer was actually making sure that the subjectivity is taken out, and you have an objective way of measuring body conditions. And I think many of you have seen this slide on how to use the caliper and what kind of body condition you like. But there is a need, again, to make sure that we account for the improvements in the genetics we have, okay? And that's why there's a need to actually calibrate our calipers. We'll just go to the slides, okay? The objectives are, sorry, go back. Okay, well, let's go back one more. Okay, so again, the modern genetics, although you will see this in the next few slides, they actually grow faster, they produce more, they actually have less back fat, they actually have better lean meat eye. So that the measurement has to be changed. So that's why we have to make sure that we make the adjustment properly. Okay, sow productivity has increased, so they would need more feed to support the production they're going to have. And it requires that when you have those calipers, make sure that they are actually calibrated to adjust for the improvement that they have at the moment. Okay. And what we did basically is to come up with an easy way to calibrate your calipers. And if you look at, oh, I should have slide. Okay. Anyway, I'll show you this one just to see the changes we've had. So this one is the genetic improvement for growth. You've seen that our gilts are growing faster than ever before. Our gilts are growing better now than last year, or even 5 years ago. That's why you see this tremendous growth here. Back fat, the red line, actually it's going down for the gilts, and the loin eye is actually going higher. And that's actually a trend that we've seen, and we will continue doing this because we know the influence of gilts or the sows on your fatteners is 50%. So we have to make sure that they also have good influence on your fatteners. Okay? So the calibration tool, I think we have a question here. Okay? So if you mind, if you can do the Mentimeter, try to see if we can have an idea if your caliper has been adjusted by PIC Technical Services people recently. It's coming in? Okay. Because it's very easy. It's not rocket science, but we want to make sure we work this with you. Okay, we have the calibration tool, which actually I have, if you want to see one, we have this. And it's actually going to be easy to do. Okay, you put your calibration tool with your caliper at the moment. This is the first generation Nauer. And then put the sticker, making sure that you actually get the right position to be able to check for risk, recovery, target, and over-conditioned sows. Okay. So how many? It's okay. So we know how many we've done. Okay. 50%. Okay. Again, if you have the calipers in your farms and you have not yet have it calibrated, please approach us. Please approach the technical team of PIC South Africa of Alzu. I'm sure they'll be helping. We have a lot of stickers available. We have those calibration things that we can actually give you. Okay. PIC feeding program. Again, another topic that actually elicits a lot of discussions. Basically, we also made it very simple. For animals that are in the recovery phase, that are a little thin, we say you increase their intake to 8.6 megacalories. At this level, we've seen that it actually increases caliper scores by 3 points. Okay, so that's what you do when you have those that are not in good condition, very thin. For the gilts, I said don't change, just feed it as well as recommended. For ideal and fat cells, feed it the same. Just so you want to make sure that they maintain their body conditions and at least maybe lower it just a little. Okay. So for consideration for a successful implementation of body condition scores, first one, it's important we standardize the caliper so that when you call us, then we're talking of the same thing. When you're talking about, okay, it's good body condition, too fat. Okay. Second, okay, monitor due to farrow cells that are recovery or thin risk. Okay. Making sure that you actually do mitigations like feeding them, maybe treating them, maybe adding some more nutrition. When the average breeding weight is over 160, okay, when you're seeing that your gilts are getting too heavy based on age, then you might want to talk to your nutritionist, okay, and try to say, okay, how can I just temper it a little, but not really take away feed or not really cause some more problems like vice development. Then for gilts, this is what the question is, they might look heavy because they are growing very fast, but they're not fat. So make sure that we don't over-adjust because we feel, okay, this gilt is getting fat. Usually they're just getting heavy. So there's no much adjustment on feeding for this one. And the last would be, do not feed over-conditioned cells below 5.9, okay, or starve them, because it will have a different problem when you do that. I think I'm just on time on this one. So one thing I've seen is, we really have to continue improving how we manage our breeders. There's a lot at stake going forward. Maybe South Africans start exporting to the Philippines. We really need the pork. And if you want to export, I also work with the government. try to make sure that we do import a lot from Spain, from Brazil, from Canada, because we do need pork there. There's a lot of needed consumption that are not met. Okay, but we have to make sure that in all our farms that we are actually managing ourselves very well. Okay, it will get harder when populations are getting bigger. It will get harder when less and less people are involved in food production. That for those who are here, the 350 people and the other hundreds that we've met the last 2 days, there's really a big responsibility for us to ensure that we actually perform better than we have performed last year. So thank you. I hope that we can all produce more pork for the future. Thank you.